1 minute after 8. Just want to say that my guest has written 12 books in all. He's received over 15 awards worldwide. I did mention that before the break. I'm happy to be hosting Ivor Ajimandia, who is a writer. I mean, he's got a lot of things that he does. Good morning to you. It's a pleasure to be hosting you this morning on the AM show.
Thank you for having me.
So is writing a lucrative profession?
Not really in the sense of making cash profits, but it's also a tool for development in some sense.
Okay.
Of trying to share knowledge production, and things like that. So it's, to some extent it could be a cash machine, but
you know, I hardly hear students say, I want to be a writer in future. Maybe you are in the business, so you can tell me. Do people want to be writers?
They do. It's an interest that you cultivate, like wanting to be a lawyer, wanting to be a journalist, wanting to be any other I think. But it's like everything else, is based on interest, and it's also based on your own sense of knowledge acquisition. You can only give what you have.
Yeah.
In that sense, you have to be very interested in reading, very interested in what will develop your own faculties before you share with others. So it's a two-way.
Okay. So what do you write?
Non-fiction, basically. Essays, travel logs, and others. But also, when the spirit moves me, I've written 2 or 3 short stories.
I'm told that there are certain times that one can write. So the inspiration comes at a certain time. Is that the same for you? Maybe at dawn, at odd hours?
Not really. I write when I have the time, and when I've thought about issues and I want to put them down.
Okay.
So I'm not the type that says I get up at 4 in the morning or 6 in the evening and then do some writings. I do write when I have the time, and I make time for writing, and I make time for reading as well. So
typically, what goes into writing?
That's a very complex question. It depends on what you're writing. If it's in the literary arts, if you're writing novel, if you're writing plays, you must have the concepts in your mind, and then these concepts are then translated on paper, and it goes on. It's a thought process, and the end effect will be the production or the publication of your thoughts. So it's a chain. The thought mechanisms, the development of the ideas, and what these ideas could do or not do. It's a mental and a very lonely thing that you do.
So who can write?
Again, it's a complex question. You're asking very complex question.
Yeah, because you know,
it's an open world. Writing is an open world, but there is some level of creativity that some people are born writers, others also cultivate the habit of writing. Some go to writing schools, and there are very good writing schools around the world. So those who are very interested in writing go to some of these writing schools.
But is there a writing school in Ghana?
Not one that I know of. Of course, the University of Ghana has the School of Performing Arts. They do other programs. Some creative courses are done. But it's just like journalism. Some go into journalism schools and they can be very good journalists. Others also don't go into journalism schools, but they have this natural way of communication that others who have even been to journalism school cannot match. So there is some natural, some creative part of it that sometimes goes beyond acquisition of degrees or professional training.
So you're part of the Writers Project of Ghana, is that
yes, they invited me to do some readings at their some couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And it was very exciting.
So there's a monthly reading series. What is it about?
They invite writers from African writers, not only Ghanaian writers, African writers from around the world, and then also Caribbean, American writers, to do some readings, to answer some questions.
Okay.
Potentially whether they are writing sensible things or not. So that
so
was
who do you read with?
What did I read?
No, who do you read with? I'm just trying to picture the environment. Are there people seated listening to you?
You have your book. You are put on stage. There are people. You have an audience, and then you read passages from your published book,
okay.
And then they ask questions. And it was fascinating because they asked some very good questions about writing, about your book. Some of them have read the book, so they were able to ask very relevant questions. Now, that was exciting.
You know, when you're reading your own book to people, do you feel at any point that, oh, I should have probably said this instead of that, or written it this way?
I didn't feel that way, but people ask questions, and these questions will set you up to think, to do a mental revision of your own work, your own passages, your own sentences. So sometimes it puts you in a different plane, and you then do some mental revision.
Okay.
So next time, okay, I will think about this. I wasn't thinking about this, but this question has engineered my thought in this direction. So next time I will do that kind of thing.
Okay. So what has been, I mean, you've written 12 books so far. Which one has been the most challenging, you would say?
Again, it's a difficult question. I'm interested in writing, so when I am at it, I have thought about what I want to put down. My thoughts are clear, and the thinking is also in a particular direction. So I've enjoyed writing all these books, and I don't think there were many challenges as to am I writing a good book or am I not writing a book.
Do you care about it anyway?
The market normally decides.
Okay.
The market decides.
Okay, but do you personally care? I mean, if it's a good book or not?
Once I have my thoughts out, I think I get some relief, some inspiration that, well, I've done my bit. You can't please everybody.
Yeah. And
your thoughts may not be the thoughts of other people. You get other people who like you. You'll be getting phone calls. You will be getting emails, and I do get dozens.
From Ghana?
From Ghana and elsewhere.
Okay.
So
we read after all? We
do read, some. Not everybody. And you don't expect everybody in the world also reads. But comparatively, we are in the middle, low league, sort of, in terms of reading. Compared to other places.
Okay. So there's also a launch of a book which is coming up. And this is in collaboration with the Goethe Institute and then the Writers Project of Ghana. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, the Writers Project will be there at the launch. But it's basically a collaboration with the Illumina Foundation in Nigeria, the Center for Intellectual Renewal, Global Media Alliance, and some sponsors that include, I don't want to mention because there are quite a number. I don't want to mention one and leave the others. And that will be tomorrow. Okay.
But this is your new book.
This is my co-edited book. It's called The Crucible of the Ages, Essays in Honor of Wole Soyinka at 80, which is a collection of essays by 30 invited writers, world leaders from around the world, to honor Nigeria's and Africa's first Nobel laureate in literature, Professor Wole Soyinka. So it has a foreword by the former Commonwealth Secretary General Chief Emeka Anyauko, and we also were lucky to get 3 Nobel laureates: Nadine Gordimer, Toni Morrison, Derek Walcott, and others, including
Amatedu.
Yeah, it is 30 people, and we have a chapter from the sitting President John Mahama, and then former President Thabo Mbeki, the Asante Hene Tumfose Tutu, and others. So it's a combination of expertise, combination of people, very diversified in terms of the output.
So, Crucible of the Ages.
Yes.
What is it about, really?
These experts, these people we especially invited, are looking at what Soyinka has done over the ages, over half a century of literary works, human rights, campaign issues, governance issues, So these individuals reflect his interest. They have Century as a giant in literature, as a giant in post-colonial studies, and also as a critic of governance in Africa. So they look at issues he's dealt with from their perspectives, and these come together to make the crucible of the ages. That is what he's done over the ages.
Okay, and this book will be launched by the president of Rwanda.
Yes, tomorrow.
And yeah, but this is tomorrow. This is happening tomorrow.
This is tomorrow.
Okay, so when I saw to be launched by the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, I asked myself, why him?
Well, he's had a very dramatic life, like the way Soyinka Rice plays, and there's some interest between the two of them over the years. He developed some respect for the Nobel laureate, and the Nobel laureate also feels that the man has done some good things for his country. They have this mutual. So when we decided that we need, when it was decided we needed somebody, an African leader, the consensus was that, well, let's get somebody from outside of the ECOWAS region, and then fell on him. So that's why. It's
not a bad choice.
Yeah, that's why he's coming tomorrow.
Okay, but let me take you back into something that you've also done. You authored a biography of our former president, J. Kufuor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What are some of the things that moved you, I mean, when you were writing about him?
I had known the family for years, and I had also known him before he became president. I started my writing career as a journalist, so I had covered him as well when he was in opposition politics. And so he was somebody I knew at the time very well. I had also spoken to the sisters, the brothers. And then when he became president, we met, and then I said, well, I want to do a biography of you, an independent biography. And he said, well, you can do that, because at least you've known me for a while. So that was the beginning of that biography.
Did you discover anything new? Because you knew him before.
I knew him before. When you're doing these things, you talk to people. You talked not only to him. I interviewed him, of course, on a couple of occasions for the book, and I interviewed classmates. I interviewed sisters, brothers, and critics, and also my own readings from previous publications, not on him, but on the general political situation in Ghana and his role, whether as Minister for Local Government or during the PFP era in the late 1970s. So all these came together to make the book.
Okay, and the response?
The book did very well. It's out of print now, so the publishers are asking that I do a new introduction to the reprint that will be coming.
That's a good thing, right?
Yes, it's been on the shelves of about 500 libraries around the world, mostly in Europe and the United States. So it's done quite well.
I also wanted to ask about your own experience traveling around the world. What has that taught you as a writer?
That the challenges of the world are the same everywhere. Of course, in degrees, we don't expect that the challenges we have in Ghana are the same as the challenges we have in Germany or the challenges the French people have. But humanity is about the same everywhere. We are somewhere, others are up there, and we're trying to catch up. Others, you find that others are also trying to catch up with you, who is trying to get up.
But do we appreciate our writers?
As Ghanaians,
a people, as Ghanaians, yes.
We do, to some extent. But the reading culture is declined compared to the 60s and the 70s, when there were many of these writers, Kofi Ono, Amar Taidu, Kojo Lee, and others, many of them. But now the numbers perhaps to also be fair to this generation, the vehicle for articulation of thoughts and new writings, not as it used to be the case, especially in with the African Writers series, which opened a new door for writers across the continent to participate in their creative, these creative activities. But it's been there, and frankly, it's not the same as that period. That is why we still remember the 70s and
Are we still
60s.
blaming it on technology?
I don't think that is the case. It's got to do with a whole lot of issues. The educational system, the economy is even part of it. So you get people giving all sorts of explanations as to why there is low productivity in the literary arts. But Nigeria possibly has more problems than we do. But the scale in Nigeria is far bigger, it's far lucrative than it is in Ghana. So it cannot be only an issue of the economy or only an issue of the educational curriculum. We need to re-examine ourselves in that area at least, and then see how we can create a new generation of creative minds that will help. Because creativity is not only about leisure, it's also about economic growth, it's also about general development in the country.
You've written on an economic history of Ghana, so you've written on the economy as well.
Yeah.
That piece that you wrote, is it relevant today in view of the challenges that we have?
Yeah, that book is an anthology looking at half a century of Ghana's economic history. So what I did was I brought together very seasoned economists that included the late President John Evans Atta Mills and current one-time finance minister Akoto Osei. I also brought on board about 30 or so of them to look at the economy over the half century from their perspectives, whether as government ministers, whether as economists, whether as diplomats. So you have people like Mr. Annan Keto, who was in the diplomatic service for many years and who contributed to that. You look like people like Mrs. Chimney Hesse, and then Moses Asaga, D.K. Osei, and others. So they've been players in the economic development of the country over the past 50 years. So I brought them together and then asked them questions as to what the situation had been, what went wrong, what the future holds for all of us. So that is, and it became an adopted book by some multilateral institutions in the United States to formulate policies for the country.
Why not Ghana?
Well,
because these are Ghanaian brains.
I think it's been used in the country to some extent, but what I know of is some think tanks in the US adopted it, so I repackaged some of what's in the book and then came out with a new era of transformation, a monograph as they call it. But they acknowledged, of course, they acknowledge in the book that a particular chapter, 2 or 3 chapters, were basically based on the work I did with this.
What's your thinking? Can we refer to the book today and get the economy back on track?
It's still in print, and it's still very exciting to those who read it and give positive commentaries about the book and about what the people who contributed to the book say. So, to some extent, it's relevant, and the issue has been we've known what the issues are. We've known
That's
what the
everybody
challenges
says.
are.
We know what the issues are.
It's sometimes very difficult to then move forward because we've never run out of ideas as to what the problem is with us, what the prospects are with us. But moving forward, I think that is where the vision and the strategic thinking comes in.
Okay, so quickly, let me go back to tomorrow, Tuesday's launch of the book.
Yep.
What time and where?
It's at the State Banquet Hall, and it's 4 p.m.
Who's invited?
It's already oversubscribed. What we did was they didn't want to invite only VIPs, the diplomatic community, politicians or opposition leaders, people in government, and so we advertised, and we decided we will give about 100 seats to people who are interested in literature. We'll call,
okay,
and then I will say, well, I'm interested in coming, can I get it? So we did that, and then we have about 20% of people coming who are from members of the public. It's 4 p.m.
Maybe I should have like hosted you somewhere last week to get tickets for some people who are watching us who want to be there.
Okay.
It means that you can't receive any more guests.
Probably not at this time.
Okay. We can only read about it.
Can only read about it.
Okay. So what do you think tomorrow's experience will be like?
It will be one of the major recognition of Professor Soyinka after winning the Nobel Prize in 1986. We're hoping it will be a major event, and with the cast of invited guests, and also with the people who are getting in to do him the honors. So it's already, I feel it will be one of the major events post the Nobel Prize in 1986.
So, Ivor Ajimandua, where can we find your books to buy? Sorry
about this. I think around the bookshops.
Okay, all right. So you can just look for Ivor Ajimandua. Go to all the bookshops. I can readily think about Challenge. I think that's the only one that's coming to mind. But there's Read Write. There are a lot of bookshops around. There's the University Bookshop as well. There's one at IPS. Yes. So go around and look for his book. I think it's good if we all have a piece of him. He's a good writer. All right. So I've been talking to Ivor Ajimandua, who is launching a book tomorrow. Special guests. Very interesting. Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, will be there at the banquet hall. Unfortunately, we can't be a part of it, but we'll keep you updated here on the Joy News channel. That will be it for the AM show today. Can I just go to Facebook and read some of your messages, some of your comments? I will quickly. Let's see what you're talking about. Well, from today, the sachet water that you were buying for 15 pesos is now to be bought for 20 pesos, and some of you are commenting on it. Bismarck, you won't die. So Ronald Yaboa says it is normal since all commodities are being increased. Michael Minla says sachet water is not sold for 15 pesos in my area by 10 pesos. Okay, so whether 15 or 10p, it is now going to be 20p. Desmond Prince Ferry says, over my dead body, will I buy it, whether you like it or yes? That's more like it. McDonald says, then it's better you haven't made for 40p. Okay, well, so just keep the conversation going. Nana Kwame Eninfo says, I bought a bag of sachet water at 3 cedis yesterday. I was shocked. Okay, get ready to be used to it. Okay, so lots of your comments. Abubakar Husham is wondering where we are heading to. Does that mean the poor can no longer live in Ghana? Allah save us. Okay. Okay, so lots of comments. I don't even know where to pick it from, but just get the conversation going on facebook.com/Joy News on TV, and stay on for News Desk, which will be on at 10, because we'll bring you updates on the news on Castro, the hip life, high life artist who drowned. Is it, we're still not clear with the issues surrounding his missing. I guess that is how I would want to put it, because we don't know if he's dead or not. What we do know is that he cannot be found. He went jet skiing on Sunday, and we'll bring you more updates on it at 10 on News Desk. So a lot more news for you later on, but stay with the Joy News channel. My name is Mamavi Owusu-Abaje. I was here with Roland Walker on the AM show. We have a date tomorrow. Don't miss it. Not for anything.